Welcome to Living Lit, where conversations spark inspiration to live in truth. Journey together with us to explore what it means to live a liturgical life and walk in the truth of our faith. Let's instill a culture in our hearts, homes, families, and world, living a life cooperating with and walking alongside our Lord. I'm Robin Brueggemann. Let's be a light, share the light, shine the light, and live lit. Welcome back to Living Lit, friends, where we explore what it means to live in the truth of our Catholic faith and cultivate the little church that we call home. Today, we're diving into a topic that can help us better understand ourselves, our spouses, our children, and even our friendships. And it's the 4 temperaments. Why do some people thrive on structure while others crave spontaneity? Why do certain family members seem energized by a crowd and others just want to go hide in a quiet corner and recharge? And how can understanding these differences help us love one another more intentionally? My guest today, Michelle Zuhlke, is one that will help us to unpack the classic temperaments, choleric, sanguine, melancholic, and phlegmatic. And she's going to show us how this timeless wisdom can strengthen our relationships, improve communication, and help us to grow in virtue. So whether you're married, you're raising children, navigating friendships, or simply trying to understand yourself a little better, this conversation is going to be full of practical insights for everyday life. Michelle, welcome to Living Lit. I am so excited to have you on today.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, so will you share a little about who you are, where you live, and how you got into the world of temperaments?
Yes, I would love to. So, as you said, my name is Michelle Zuhlke. I live in Creighton, Nebraska, which is northeast Nebraska. We're about an hour southwest of Yankton, if you know where Yankton is.
Oh,
Yeah, so my husband is Dylan. We live in town, but we are farmers, as we were just having that conversation earlier. So we raise corn and we raise pigs, lots of pigs, and we also raise 5 children. So ranging 12 and 11, 2 boys, then 2 girls, 9 and 8, and then a son, Miles, who is 2 years old and
oh.
taking his nap right now. So yeah, we grew up 5 miles from each other. Both went to a small town just 15 minutes over to school, high school sweethearts, got married just a couple years after high school. And yeah, I've just been living here and doing this. I have my degree in secondary English education. So I taught for 1 year and then we got pregnant with our third, so decided to stay home and raise a kiddo. So I've been doing that. And in any spare time that I have, I help the Archdiocese of Omaha with something called the mentorship program that they have. It's equipping lay leaders for the work of the new evangelization. So it's such a gift to be a part of that and get talk some weekends, give some talks. I just love that. But also, I am a certified mindset coach for a ministry that's called Metanoia Catholic. So anyone who wants to look it up, you could just type in Metanoia Catholic. Their founders live in Florida, and their mission is to serve the human formation poverty in the church. So more on that in a little bit. But how I found them was just, I had a great upbringing, very faithful parents. We talked about Jesus in the home, went to church, all the things. But I still found myself really placing my value in the world, really placing my value in what others thought of me, and just having a lot of insecurity from that. And really, in the summer of 2022, that kind of all came to a head. For whatever reason, I truly believe the Lord just allowed it for my healing. But like any insecurity that I'd ever had that, during the crazy years of motherhood, I've probably just kind of pushed to the side, didn't have a lot of time to think about it. It was like it all came bubbling up and I just cried every day. I mean, me and my friend would be at the pool with our kids and I would just be crying under my sunglasses. And she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just can't stop crying." It was like this purging. And I was just ready to find out like what was going on. I really had a mentality if I wanted to fix myself, which like looking back now, that's not a very gentle approach. The Lord isn't ever like, let's fix you and get this better. But in that desire to just not feel this way anymore, I reached out for help in different areas, some therapy, some different things. And then just really questioning it too, because I was like, I don't have a lot of trauma with a big T in my life. So there's almost like this guilt as well of like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Why do I? And then I saw an Instagram ad for Metanoia Catholic, Catholic mindset coaches. And I really thought, what do I have to lose? I don't know what this is, but they're Catholic. It has to do with mindset. Let's just give it a go. So I signed up to be coached for 8 weeks with a mindset coach who had been trained through their ministry. And that very quickly, like as an English teacher, I hate using this term, but changed my life. Like it really did. It was such a metanoia moment. It was such a catalyst for growth and change and really an encounter with the Lord. And so, what I found out, some of the first things I found out during that was just my temperament. So, this God given temperament, just the way that I was made, this inborn trait, to be specific, inborn biologically based emotional and behavioral traits that dictate how an individual responds to the world. If you want a formal definition of temperament. um, and finding out release of relief that explained a little bit why I cared more than it seemed like other people cared, what people
Mhm.
thought of them. And so then I could kind of move forward just with a level of acceptance. So that's really the first pillar is this self knowledge, knowing yourself and the temperaments. And then it moved on to the next part, which is the mindset coaching, which is the taking every thought captive in obedience to Christ. Which, as an English teacher, something that always struck me with my very good English teacher from high school was she would always say, when you're writing, show, not tell. Show, not tell. Don't just tell me it's a beautiful sunset. Show me with your words what the sunset looks like, how it feels, all this description. And I've really carried that with me through my life. So when you hear people say, take every thought captive in obedience to Christ, like that sounds great. But could someone please show me what that
Mhm.
actually means? And that, that is their second pillar is how to actually take your thoughts captive in obedience to Christ. So they have a great journal. They have free journal pages on their website that you can download yourself and start journaling. But she really just walked me through the steps of naming my thoughts, what emotions they're producing, and then what actions are coming from that, and holding all three of those up to the light of Christ and letting him transform them. So that was really powerful. And then their third pillar is self-gift. So once you like know how God made you, you're taking your ownership of your thoughts, taking those thoughts captive to Christ, then you can truly figure out how to be self-gift. How God uniquely made you to serve some poverty in the world, to be a specific face of Christ that the world needs to see, and how you can show up to that in freedom, in joy, and really dig in and just ask those questions of what makes you feel alive. And so that is what I am so grateful. After that whole experience of doing that myself, I was like, I want to share this with others. I can't stop sharing this with others. So I became a certified mindset coach. And although I do love the one on one mindset coaching, I really love leading workshops. I found that that
Mhm.
is a gift, something that God has placed on my heart to do. So I love giving talks, particularly the temperament talks. I
Yeah.
love talking about temperaments with all of my friends, with anybody who will listen, quite honestly. So thank you, Robin,
Yeah.
for bringing
Yeah.
me back to talk about temperaments because, yeah, I
Yeah.
just love it.
Yeah, which is how we first met then, is
Yes.
you were speaking at a women's conference that my sister and I attended in Nebraska, the Empower Conference, and you were a breakout session. And I was like, "Oh, that looks so interesting." We could choose our breakout session. And I tell you, the conference was non-denominational, which is great, fine. But soon into getting into your talk, I'm like picking up on the little Catholic things you're laying down. I'm like, okay, if you know, you know, I'm picking up on it. And I'm like, okay, sister. So it was so great because you spoke on the temperaments, which are not specific Catholic. And the talk you gave didn't have to be specifically Catholic. It was Christian, it was temperament based. But I loved how you did bring in some Catholic um, flair to that, which
Yes.
was so great. So anyway, so that's how we met. So then I talked to you afterwards. And the fun other connection is that that very day you were heading to my diocese to Broomtree to go be with priests, I think, right? To put on, or
It
was it
was
priests or?
That time, it was actually for the mentorship program. Yes,
Okay,
so it's with
okay,
lay people, but
okay.
yes, we were
But you
there in
have.
Broom Tree, yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
anyway, so that was like such a small world. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I have got to have Michelle come on and talk about temperaments because you really helped clear up a lot of loose ends and thoughts that I was confused on temperaments. And you brought it to a level that I could really easily understand. And I loved how you had touched on, we when we understand a little bit more about our own temperament, but also like our husband or something, it really can make a difference because then we're not, getting mad at maybe little things that our loved one is doing when it's like that's just how they're wired. So anyway, so I'm just so thankful to have you on. So will you
Yes,
tell us
yes.
then? So you gave the definition of a temperament, but do you want to put in your like if you're comfortable in your words, how would you describe a temperament? Because it's different
Yeah,
than like personality types, right? Do you find
yes.
people get them confused?
Yes, so, like, if you're like me, I love all, the Clifton Strengths and, any personality test is just right up my
Mhm.
alley. I love it. But why I love the temperament so much is because it's so easy. First of all, there's just 4 of them, and I find it very accessible to talk
Yeah.
about. Like I
Yeah.
love Clifton Strengths, but there's a lot of them,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
remember. But there's just 4 of these. So really temperament at its basis is just how you respond to things, your
Mm.
initial reaction to something. And it's, we also, our temperament, like our primary temperament is really given to us by God. Like it is just
Mm.
who we are. We can have a secondary temperament and obviously we have all 4 of them to some degree, but that secondary temperament can be more our environment. If
Mm.
your parents were both a certain temperament, obviously growing up in that environment will rub off on you. So, of course, those secondary type temperaments can definitely come from your environment, but really at the core, your primary temperament is God given as who you are. And I think sometimes we have to uncover it a little bit, especially if we've been living in insecurity or pushing down certain parts of ourselves that we've had shame
Mhm.
around, especially to do with our temperament, that maybe sometimes it's hard to really get back to the core of who we are if we've been believing a lot of lies. So I think that
Mhm.
can sometimes hold people up. But I do like to give, the example when I give the temperament talk of if you think about something that you don't have time to think about, something that just happens really quick and maybe gets you really mad very quickly that you don't have time to process before your body has an emotional reaction. So I sometimes, like if I do it for high school kids, I say, imagine you were given an unfair grade on a test, not just an unfair grade that you think is unfair, but like a truly unfair grade on a test. How would you react to that? Or sometimes for adults, I'll say, if you were given an unfair speeding ticket, like you truly did not deserve to have that speeding ticket, to really think about what is your initial reaction before you have time to process it. Like, are you heated right away, or does it take you a little bit longer and you have to think about it? But the more you think about it, the more heated you get. And so, if we can just kind of break down the
Mhm.
temperaments, all 4
Yeah.
of them. I do just want to share, within this whole temperament work, there's kind of this buzzword of human formation going around in the
Mhm.
church. And so human formation really is like the foundational pillar. So John Paul II, I always pick it up because I don't know if I can even pronounce it right, but he wrote in Pastores Dabo Vobis, he wrote about the 4 types of formation that seminarians should receive. And also, human formation kind of comes like the program of priestly formation. So their human formation operates on this threefold process, which we talked about: the self knowledge, the self acceptance, and self gift. And temperaments is really in that self knowledge piece. So, this is a pillar that is actually the foundation for the other pillars in the seminary. So you have human formation on the bottom and then intellectual formation, spiritual formation, and pastoral formation. And I just find it absolutely fascinating that human formation is the foundation. You might think some of those other ones would be, but to know how God made you helps you
Mhm.
understand how to pray,
For sure.
how to think. All of these things are just so pivotal. But what's beautiful is that this translates so easily to the layperson's life and
Mhm.
especially marriage. It says it's seminary. Human formation, um, develop emotional maturity. It's to develop the inner freedom, emotional balance, and resilience needed to sustain long-term commitments and relate to diverse groups of people. I mean, that's for marriage, right?
Mhm.
Before you can enter marriage, have you developed the inner freedom, emotional balance, and resilience needed to sustain a long-term commitment? Like right there.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think temperament is really that first step. So if we can just kind of dig into the four temperaments, my little quote that I love to say from St. Catherine of Siena is, "Be who God meant you to be, and you'll set the world on fire. But we can't
Love
set the
that.
world on fire if we don't know who we were meant to be." So, here with our temperaments, they're like the OG personality tests. They've been talking about temperaments for the last couple thousand years. They'll find, even though it might look a little different, scholars have noticed, like before Jesus even walked the earth, they were talking about how people came out differently, like reacted
Yeah.
differently to things. So we have two extroverted temperaments and we have two introverted temperaments. So we'll start with the extroverted temperaments, which the first one we're going to talk about is choleric. Choleric, choleric, people pronounce it differently. There's also a fun little Winnie the Pooh reference for each temperament, but clerics are extroverted and they would be like the rabbit. So a choleric is the doer. They take charge, especially in the absence of leadership. Clerics hate laziness. I have not yet met a cleric who that wasn't one of their top triggers was laziness. They just are so triggered by it. Really hate laziness. They thrive in challenges. They're dependable, not given to anxiety. But also on the flip side, a cleric can be argumentative or judgmental, impatient, and stubborn. So this is also like St. Paul. I mean, think of St.
Mm.
Paul after his conversion. He just went for it. I mean, without hesitation, just right away took a leadership role and was leading others and is, I mean, almost a little sassy sometimes in some of
Mhm.
his letters, which I love. I mean, there is no beating around the bush. There is no laziness with him. Like he has a goal and he is going to go get it. So St. Paul is a
Mhm.
really wonderful choleric to model yourself after if you are also a cleric. So what we know about their reaction time is that they react quickly and then it's strong and lasting. So if they receive that unfair grade or unfair speeding ticket, it is a hot reaction. I mean, they are from 0 to 100 fast and then they stay angry about it. They are
Mhm.
probably going to do something about it. Try to get this fixed. They're not going to let it go. They're a doer. So that's the cleric. Our next extroverted temperament is the sanguine. This is my primary temperament. So the sanguine is the Tigger. So if you think of Tigger, he is literally up and down, up and down, up and down, kind of an emotional roller coaster. That is the sanguine. We make friends easily. We are quick to forgive. We love working on teams and can be optimistic. We are very eager to get projects started. We love to start a project. We have 1,000 ideas a day, but we can also be bad at following through. And with that, relationship
Definitely.
based temperament, it's you too. Yes, we can also be inclined to jealousy because we are so friendship oriented. We can avoid hardship because we love comfort. We can be
Mhm.
non-perseverant and superficial. So the sanguine reacts quickly, but then they kind of forget about it. It does not have that sustained like the cleric does. We get hot and then we're back down and we forgot about it and we've moved on. Same thing, and
Move
we
on
get
to something
really
else.
moved on to something else. And we get really excited and then the next day it's another thing. Yeah, it's so great for forgiveness
Yeah.
because we let go of grudges quite easily. But
Yeah, I forgot all about it.
yes, my favorite saint is Saint Peter because I think that
Mhm.
he was definitely a sanguine. He's doing crazy stuff all the time, like, "Yes, Lord, I'll jump out of the boat and come to you in the water," and then he's like, "Oh, no, I don't know if I have enough faith." I mean, he's always like, "I will never deny you, Lord. I love you so much," and then, like, 2 seconds later, he denies Jesus 3 times. So
Mhm.
he can be a bit superficial, but, I mean, Jesus he always came back though, right? He
Yeah.
always came back, and Jesus put him in charge of the church, so I'm like, "There's hope for us yet." He saw something in him. But I always think of Saint Peter, and as for his intercession, Saint Teresa of Avila, another sanguine. So those are the extroverted temperaments. The introverted temperaments, we'll start with the melancholic. This is my secondary temperament, which is quite odd because sanguine and melancholics are complete opposites. So the melancholic is introverted. They are very thoughtful and compassionate, and they have high ideals. Like it is said of the melancholic, they will not be satisfied till heaven. Like what a gift that is too.
Mhm.
They're loyal. They are sacrificial. So a high tolerance for mortification. They've found it's something crazy like 80% of teachers and nurses identify as melancholic because of that
Yeah,
high level or a high
that's
tolerance
cool.
for mortification. But they can tend towards self pity or pessimism, hold grudges, or look at the downside. So your Winnie the Pooh character is Eeyore. You get Saint Therese of Lisieux. And I also like to think that Saint Joseph was a melancholic. We know he doesn't
Mm.
say a word. Very steady and thoughtful and loving. And yeah, so I don't know. I don't know for sure what Saint Joseph was, but I like to think he was a melancholic. So what a melancholic does is they react slowly. They don't get hot right away. It's a very slow reaction, but then they have to think about it and they think about it some more and they go home. And then if it's, this unfair grade or speeding ticket, they're going to get angrier and angrier and angrier. It's like a post being slowly driven into the ground.
Mm.
And that's the same with, something that they get excited about. They have to really think about it first. And then their passion might grow and grow and grow the more that they think about it. But it
Mhm.
just takes them time to process. So I had
Yeah.
a priest a few years ago who was here who is melancholic. We had many conversations about it. And if you needed an answer from him, the loving thing to do would be to email him a couple days before you needed this answer.
Mm.
So you could honor him. He could have time to really think about it and process it. And then he would get you a beautiful answer, a well thought
Mm.
out answer. He just needed a little more time to process it.
Yeah, which that's such a great example then of how if we understand people's temperaments, because if you would have asked him something right on the spot, you would have gotten a different answer.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, which we can talk more about that. But yeah, tell us about the other temperament.
yes.
Sorry, didn't mean
Whoa.
to interrupt you.
Thank you. I'm glad you did. No, just one more, the phlegmatic. So the phlegmatic is the Winnie the Pooh. It's said that St. Thomas Aquinas was phlegmatic. They're the peacemaker. They are dependable and calm. They avoid conflict. They are very patient and they don't judge, but they can be unmotivated or fearful, aimless. They can tend towards laziness or being indecisive. They can be people pleasers. They have found that phlegmatics are really good military leaders. You might think
Mhm.
that a great military leader would be a cleric, which, yes, like any temperament can be a great leader. But they've found that in high emotional, intense situations, phlegmatics have this ability to stay calm and stay true to the
Mm.
plan and make grounded decisions. And so a phlegmatic makes a great leader in high intensity situations for so many reasons that you might not think that they would. But
Mhm.
it's just a gift. And I find that with my own husband, kind of with this marriage theme, my husband is the phlegmatic and
Okay.
I'm a sanguine. And he just is kind of steady all the time because, yeah, in the reaction, the phlegmatic just doesn't really react. They don't
Mhm.
have a reaction at the beginning. And later, they don't have a reaction either. It is very small if they do. They just are kind of
Mm.
steady all the time. And me as a sanguine, who is the biggest roller coaster I'm riding all the time, I really
Mhm.
need that steadiness of my husband to keep me grounded and to remind me of so many things. So, yeah, we
Yeah.
can talk about that more too, but it is a gift. So, yeah, those are the 4 temperaments. I encourage anyone who wants to know more, one, to just think about situations when you don't have a lot of time to think. How do you react? To kind of really give you a true sense of what your primary temperament is. But also, Metanoia Catholic has a free temperament assessment that takes like 7 to 10 minutes. And so, if you Google that, or if we put that in the show notes,
Yep, we will
or
put in
have
the show
yes,
notes.
awesome,
Absolutely. Yep.
awesome. I would encourage you if you're interested to just go and take that, have your spouse take it, your
Yeah.
kids,
That's what this is, right?
friends. Yes, that
Okay.
that goes along with it.
Temperament
So
assessment chart. Okay.
yeah, so they'll give you your results of what your temperament is, and they have lots of resources. They have a podcast too, where they have like a whole series on each temperament. So if you are interested
Yeah.
in learning more about your temperament, You can go to the Metanoia Catholic podcast, and they have more information on that there too, which is all
Yeah.
free, so it's good.
So you had mentioned, so your main temperament is something you're born with then, right? It was your
Yes.
secondary one that can be affected by your surroundings or how you were raised. And so quite often do you find most people have more than one, right? Like you
Yes.
kind of a primary and a secondary, is that pretty much always how it works?
Yes, I would say always. And oftentimes you have a lot of people who are like, I took the test and I'm like perfectly even on all four, which can happen. So just to point
Wow.
out, you cannot which they, Jesus was the perfect mix of all four temperaments. He had the
Mm,
best of all four. He was all of them perfectly embodied. But the temperament test, I always tell people, don't get too hung up on your results either, because this isn't a blood test. We can't draw a sample of blood and it comes back like with exactly what you are. It's more nuanced than that. So, of course, you are going to be a mix. Of course, you are going to be unlike anybody who has ever walked the earth. Like, not all sanguines are the same. We are so different. It's just a tool. That's what I encourage people when they use it. Just use it as a tool to give you better language about understanding yourself and understanding others. That's what I've
mhm.
found. Not
Yeah.
all of it, when I go through that assessment, not everything resonates with me as a sanguine. Like, "Oh, I
Mhm,
don't really resonate," and nor should it. It's just a
mhm,
broad spectrum of general things about sanguines to help you have language. That's all it is. Use it as a
mhm.
tool. Don't let it be the master. It is a tool for your own sake, to
Yeah,
grow closer to Jesus and grow closer in
yeah.
love for others.
Yeah. So you had mentioned, this is something that you found on your journey that really helped you to understand yourself better. What are some other things that really like that just your eyes just really opened or that you understood about yourself more in that
Mhm.
time of when learned about, accepted, embraced your temperament?
Yeah, so I think that we can tend to have shame around certain things. So, shame about I talk a lot. I talk a lot. Shame about I have all these crazy ideas all the time and I just really like to have fun. I just want to always be having fun.
That's not a
So
bad thing, is it?
no, no. So if I right. So I feel like sometimes though, I would be like, "Oh, I'm not good enough here. If only I was like this person. If only I could be more organized." Specifically my prayer life. Like as a Catholic and a Christian wanting to have a committed set time of prayer every single day to be in relationship with the Lord, like kind of a non-negotiable for any temperament, right? To spend time with the Lord every day. Really getting down on myself though, because I can't do it like my melancholic friends or choleric friends who are so good at consistency. They just dive right in
Mhm.
and they love hard things and they make it happen. Like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with me? Why can't I do that? So, realizing some things about myself that I like to have fun, that I like to work in teams, that I like adventure, that I'm terrible with a set schedule. It's not an excuse. I think that's a really important thing to know about your temperament too, is knowing your weaknesses isn't an excuse to just lean into them. But it is helpful to eliminate that shame where I'm no longer comparing myself to my melancholic and cleric friends' prayer life, where they're up at, some of them are up at 5:30 every morning getting it in. That's never going to be
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
Shouldn't say never. But to lean in, okay, I still want to be held accountable and I still want to make a commitment to this every day. How can that look as myself? So for me, it looks like I need accountability and sometimes I need to do it with other people and I need to maybe do it at different times of the day. It's not always going to be at 5:30. It's
Mhm.
never at 5:30 for me.
Me either.
But like on Tuesdays for the last 4 years, I've been praying with a group of people over Zoom at 6 a.m. morning rosary. So we get up and I will tell you, I never want to do it. That is so painful for me. When my alarm goes off at 5:50, I'm always like, never again. I won't do it. But I get up because there's other people there and I love people and I want to be held accountable to those people. I want to show up for them. Pray the rosary. Never sad that I've prayed the rosary.
Mhm.
And then I'm already up, so I get prayer time in after the rosary. On Thursdays, we have adoration all day at our church. And so I signed up because I knew I needed to be accountable for a 1 p.m. time slot. So I actually just had adoration before this today,
Mm, awesome.
going and there's other people there. Like there's just something so I just feel like adoration is for sanguines. There is like an adventure and romance at adoration.
Mm,
It's so lovely. So I'm
yeah.
those are just two examples of during my week how I pray, but how I try to set it up for me. Like I need things to be a little different. It's still consistent. The consistency is still there, still praying every day, but it can look different. And sometimes it has to look like I need to do it with a friend. Like
Mm,
pray Lexio together. Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's helped eliminate that shame and help me actually lean into how God has made me.
Yeah. So, as the Catholic mindset coach, do you work then specifically with knowing someone's temperament once they know it and you potentially know it to then plug in? Like, I love how you gave the prayer example because I think when we're not thinking of temperaments and we are falling into the comparison game of, so and so prays like this and they see fruits, and so prays like that. And then when we are like trying that and it's just not working out,
Hmm.
and it's could very likely be because of our temperament. I can see where someone's thinking, "Oh my goodness, okay, I need to find someone that understands my temperament and can help me plug in these different things." I mean, I even think of like probably like homemaking. Like I love decorating. I love my house. I love being a homemaker. My house is a mess. It's not dirty. I keep our house clean, but it's pretty messy. So I don't know, is that like a sanguine thing or not? But so
Yes.
I could see where like because I have lived, you're talking about shame. I've lived in shame for so many years because I am not a perfect housekeeper. Like I said, it's clean, it's just not tidy. And now
Hmm.
I can see where I'm like, "Oh, wait a second. Okay, so that's just me and I'm wired and it's because I'm onto this and I'm onto that. And I'm gonna start this project." And I'm like, maybe I should clean my closet out today. And then I should have really been doing the dishes. And I'm like, wait a second, maybe I should read that book for a second. I'm gonna listen to that podcast. And so now I'm like, okay, now I'm understanding this is why my house looks the way it is. So I'm just thinking, wow, how valuable it would be to have someone like you and like to go, it's okay. This is the way God designed you to be. And you can let go of XYZ shame because that's just not how you're wired. But you are wired this way. And this is your gift. And this is your superpower. So is that something
Yeah.
that you tackle in your mindset coaching?
Yeah. Oh, so many thoughts. Such a good question. And yeah, that is always the first session. If I usually do 4 weeks of mindset coaching to start with. And that's what we always do on the first is they come prepared with their results and we walk through their temperament and learn more about their temperament because that changes everything, even from the
Yeah.
questions that you ask. Like if you have a goal that you want to tackle in the 4 weeks of mindset coaching, like cholerics love certain language. Like, I want
Mm,
to achieve this goal. They wanna be able to cross something off their list. So even the questions that you ask look different than what you might ask a sanguine or a phlegmatic,
mhm.
because even the word goal sometimes, like, triggers people. Like, "Oh, it's too hardcore for me, and I don't know if I like it." So even changing the language about how you ask questions about what motivates you, by knowing your motivations, like, what what could make this so fun? Might be a question I might ask a sanguine. How can
Mhm.
you make this so fun? Like a task that they maybe don't want to do or something might resonate with them. With the cleric might be like, I don't care if it's fun or not. I just want to get it done. Not
Yeah.
everything has to be fun. So that is always the first step is knowing the temperament. So then you can know the
Yeah.
better questions to ask and know their pitfalls, like what is going to hang up a cleric is different than what's gonna hang up a sanguine,
Yeah.
too. Even the things the clean house thing, my summer, because summer when all the kids are home and it's just a little bit messy.
Mhm.
Knowing here one thing I know is that, like, radical hospitality is a value of myself and kind of our family. So, there's friends in and out, there's neighbor kids in and out, which I also have been working on this summer, like, setting boundaries around that too for my melancholic side to need a little more introverted time. But telling myself instead of our house is such a mess. I've been saying there's so much life that happens here
Mm.
because I know this is the value of our family. So changing that to there's been so much fun here today. And then when I live from that place, I can move forward. If I'm just like, it's
Yeah.
such a mess, I get stuck and I shut down and I don't want to do anything about it because I'm like, it's going to be a mess tomorrow. But I
Mhm.
find when I say things like, because I actually believe it. There's so much fun happening here. There was so much life here today. I can move forward and say,
Mm.
how can we take 30 minutes to all pitch in together and tidy the house?
Yeah.
And to know, because I have choleric friends who will tell me it is a gift that you are willing to let people into your house when it doesn't look perfect,
Mm.
because that's really hard for me.
Yeah.
And so I tend to not invite people over.
Mhm.
So recognizing that as a gift too. But it's funny
Yeah.
because my sister-in-law, who is cleric, just gave me for my birthday. I don't know even know what they're called, but do you know the timers that have the sand in them that you flip over?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like
She
an hourglass?
Yes, thank you, an hourglass.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
gave me one that's a 30-minute one because she was like, "I feel like this will be fun for you as a sanguine if you wanna
Oh,
get stuff done." And it is so much fun. I'm like, "Okay, I can do anything for 30 minutes. I can clean
oh,
this
that's
kitchen for 30
cool.
minutes." So I flip my hourglass and,
I
like, try to
love
beat
that.
the sand, you know? Like, oh, how can you make it fun?
Yeah,
That's the same
that's a
with,
great
like,
one.
my nephew who's a sanguine, his mom, who's cleric, will call me and be like, "How do I motivate this kid to get his homework done?" It's driving me
Yeah.
crazy. Why can't he just do it? And I will often say, you need to find something fun for him to do. And one particular day, I was going to take my kids roller skating. So I said, tell him if he gets it done by this time, we're going roller skating. We'll pick him up. He
Oh,
had that homework done in 30
no
minutes,
time. Yeah.
just. And I think sometimes we can feel shameful even about that. Like, I need fun to motivate me. And I think, I mean, sometimes, yes, we just have to do the hard thing. But why can't it be fun if we're still doing the
Mhm.
hard thing? Can we
Right.
use how creative can we be to get the hard thing done in our
Yeah.
temperament?
I
Yeah.
love that. So, do you have other recommendations of where someone can go deeper if they're not ready to have a coach like you, or that's just maybe not something they can do? You have the Metanoia Catholic. And will you spell metanoia for people who are listening and they're
Yes.
like, what did they just say?
Yes. Metanoia is Metanoia.
Okay, Metanoia.
Metanoia. And
Yep. Yep, and I will include that in the show notes. So, Mentanoia
yes.
Catholic is also has resources, but is there another place that you have found or resources that you have found that help you when you were on your journey to understand more about the temperaments and understanding others? And then we'll also next just talk a little bit about how we can work together with other temperaments in our household. But how any
Yes.
resources that you recommend?
So there is, I always want to remember their last name correctly, if you can still hear me. So The Temperament God Gave You is a book, a
Yeah,
classic book by Art and Lorraine Bennett.
that's
So
right. I have that book actually now that you say it.
yes, that is a great, great book, The Temperament God Gave You. And they also wrote The Temperament God Gave Your Children. So
Yes.
both really awesome resources, I would say, to use. Somebody had given me this book called The Four Temperaments, and it's by a priest, and I
Hmm.
cannot find it anywhere online. So if I find that, I'll send it to you, but it is just this little book and it is a great resource. So maybe if someone even wanted to Google,
Yeah.
maybe they can find it. Catholic priest, The Four Temperaments.
Yeah, and then I have also probably a couple years ago now, I had a guest on and she wrote the book Piety and Personality. That's through Tanner.
Yes,
So I will hook that one too. So she has been on the show. So I'll link that show in the show notes as well. That was also
yes.
very good on temperaments too.
Rosemary Berry.
She's wonderful too. So when it comes to marriage, let's talk a little bit quick about how understanding not just our temperament, but our hubbies or a wife, if we've got a man listening, how that can help us. Now, you mentioned, actually, it sounds like you and I and our husbands are very similar because I think I tend to be the sanguine where I'm up and down, up and down, up and down.
Mhm.
And then my husband, too, is it melancholic? Is the one that he's just slow and steady, just
Phlegmatic.
phlegmatic. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my husband,
Yes.
too. We balance each other out really, really well. But it did take some getting to used to because sometimes I'm like, okay, I need a reaction. Like, or what's the
Exactly.
answer? I need to know now. And we've been married for going to be 33 years. And so, but it did take some getting used to that.
Mhm.
So we can work together, but can you speak into how this is beneficial to understanding yours and your spouse's temperament in marriage?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I feel like it's been really pivotal in our own marriage. And I was thinking about this today, just it helps us assume the best of our spouse, is what I
Mm,
have found. Knowing your spouse's temperament helps you assume the best because I think
I
just
love
like
that.
a weed in a marriage is when we start to assume the worst, their intentions.
Hmm.
So just like you were saying, I mean, I would tell my husband, I have 1,000 ideas a day. So I would just,
Yeah.
word vomit essentially to him every day, like, let's sell our house and buy an RV and tour the country, or let's start a coffee shop, or let's do this food truck, crazy, good, wonderful ideas too. If
Fun
I do say
ideas.
so, thank you. So fun, full of adventure. But he would respond just with a huh. And my expectation was he'd respond with, "These are awesome.
Yeah,
Yes,
great
let's do it."
idea.
Yeah. Like a "let's go" type of
Like, affirm me
reaction.
in this. Come on.
Yes. Yes, and I would get so frustrated because I understood it as an attack on myself, that he hated my ideas, thought they were stupid. It was a big put down. And until I recognized this and I had deeper, which gave me the language, which is what it's all about, to ask him more specific questions, and he was able to say, "One, sometimes it overwhelms me when you come at me with all of this. Like, it's hard for him to even receive it. But two, it was never that I think your ideas are stupid. It's that I just need a little time to think about it. Like, I don't just think about it right away like you do. I need a little time to think about it." And then I was able to notice just a beautiful part of discernment in our marriage is if I have all these ideas and then we continue to talk about them, and like eventually he really starts talking about it and is more on board, it's a I mean, obviously this makes sense, but it's a really good sign from the Lord when he comes on board with something, because I know that he has taken prayerful discernment and really thought things through. So when he's like, "Yes, I think this would work for our family," it's really helpful to me to have that confirmation, because I also know that when I am going to be tempted to want to give up, because that happens, or to not persevere, he is going to be that encouragement for me to keep going because of his conviction and his steady conviction. So now I still share with him because he is my husband and we share everything, but I've learned out of compassion and love for him to, one, maybe not like word vomit all over him, to more gently introduce ideas. And then I am no longer hurt because I'm not assuming the worst. I'm not assuming that he just automatically thinks my ideas are stupid. I have the knowledge that he just needs some time to think about it, and he likes to hear what I have to say. So that's been such a gift in our own marriage. I know my sister-in-law will share how the temperaments have helped in her marriage with her husband. She is choleric and he is melancholic, and they are also farmers. So when it is planting season or when it is harvest season, she is one like, "Let's get going. Let's get out in the field and get this done. What are we waiting for?" And it used to drive her crazy because he would be still tinkering in the shop, getting tractors ready. He would be the last farmer out in the field. And that used to really bother her. But then when she learned he was a melancholic, she realized he has high ideals and he is a perfectionist. And she noticed that although they might be the last ones out in the field, they rarely had a breakdown because he had taken so much time in the beginning to make sure everything was fine tuned, everything had a place, that when they got started, they really went quickly because of that. And so now she can marvel at it. She can have gratitude towards it. It doesn't annoy her because she can trust that process and really give him respect in that way by honoring how God made him. And it helps us assume the best, not the worst of one another.
I love that so much, assuming the best.
Yeah.
That is beautiful, and can see where that would be absolutely life-changing to a marriage, because then instead of nitpicking these little things or thinking they were intentional or that was meant to hurt my feelings, all these little, like you say, weeds
Hmm.
can be avoided.
Yes. Yes.
So that I just oh my goodness, this could just be so, so, so helpful and life-changing and eye-opening and transformative to a marriage.
Yeah.
And when that happens in our marriages, we all know that our marriages affect our family culture.
Yes.
And so if our marriages as husband and wife, we're learning to love each other the way God designed each of us, and he chose us to be together and we chose each other. And God knows we can work well together if we can just understand. And I think how beautiful also this opportunity to get to know your spouse better. What
Yes.
a gift. Like I just think Like, as I have learned to understand Spike and the way he's wired, I find it so beautiful. Thank God he's not just like me. We would have a lot of problems if we were both like,
Mhm.
bouncing around and whatever. So I appreciate it so much, and I know that's what will happen to spouses when they recognize the design here.
Absolutely. The differences made me think of another story. I read this book called Quiet. I escapes me the name of the author. But she was talking a lot about introverts. Her whole book's about introverts. And she talks about these husband and wife couple. He was a raging extrovert and she's very much an introvert. And before they had got married, he hosted parties at his house with friends every single weekend. And they got married and she was like, I am exhausted. Like we have people over at our house every single weekend. I can't handle it. And they came together and they both understood each other, but they made a compromise. So they were going to have 2 weekends a month that were for friends, and friends came over and they hosted, and 2 weekends that it was going to be just them doing more quiet activities. But what I thought the most creative part that I really appreciated was that not only was she still like, we're going to have these parties, but they were going to set up spots in their house for quiet conversation. Because her, as a melancholic introvert, it wasn't that she doesn't like to be around people, she just would rather have a one-on-one conversation. So they were going to set up, little tables where she could sit and still have a quiet, deep conversation with someone that filled her heart, and they could still be
Mm,
there. And a great question for married couples is just like, how creative can you get? There's no
yeah.
limits to honor both of your temperaments and to honor the way God made
Mm.
both of you is just a great way to love each other.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, it's making me think of in the beginning of the podcast together, you talked about one of the areas is self gift, right? I think was
Yes.
what it was.
Yes.
And how really understanding our temperament and then understanding others or just having that on our radar a little bit can help us to serve others, but go beyond ourselves. Because like how beautiful, when you're talking about this gal who she's, they're compromising and she's making these quiet little pockets for quiet, intentional conversations. And how that is then serving their friends and their family that are coming into their home because they also are going to have those different temperaments. And so
Yes.
then she is ministering and loving on and kind of accommodating, if you will, the other people like her who are going to love to enter into that conversation in a quieter way. So I'm seeing how
Absolutely.
then this self-gift kind of I I'm assuming that's kind of what that is, isn't it? Because then we can
It
serve
is.
others and see the needs of others beyond just caring about our own temperaments and how we might be working with or clashing with others. It's how we can then serve through temperament awareness.
Absolutely.
So
That is the whole
awesome.
point. Yes, is to be
Yeah.
self-gift. And that was just in the gospel today in Mark, the 2 greatest commandments to love others, as
Mm,
yourself, the second. And I was just thinking, reflecting on that here, it is really hard to love others well if you don't have love yourself. And love
mhm.
yourself not in the sense of conceited, self-righteous, unholy love, but in a love of, like, just gratitude for how God made you and
Mm,
acceptance of how God made you and knowing your
mhm.
temperament and not having shame around that, but just seeing it as a true gift that allows you to love other people well. And I would say
For
it's really
sure.
hard to love others well if you don't first have that love for how God made you
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. I just love this, and I'm just so excited at how God has reopened my eyes to this and put you into my path, and now I get to share you with others. So, do you have
Yay.
other things you wanna tell us about, like, temperaments that the Lord had placed on your mind, especially since you had the gift of being in adoration right before spending time with us? Wow.
I know, it was
Wow.
really perfect. No, I just think, really, I was just giggling at the seminary formation. That was just one thing that really came on my mind, how what they're asked to do. The other part was the self-awareness. I did wanna share this, if I can get, it to pull up here quick. Self-awareness, if I can just remember what they said about what they want them to know about self-awareness is to have a true understanding of themselves, their strengths and their weaknesses, so they can show up authentically and not out of pretense. And I thought that that was so good for us too,
Mm.
especially entering marriage, entering friendships, entering conversations we have with our spouses or our kids. To know ourselves allows us to show up in humility. Like, for example, another thing that I was thinking of was the marriage advice of never go to bed angry is like really terrible marriage advice for me as a sanguine because I have a rule that I cannot have an argument with my husband after 8 o'clock because when I am tired, I do not have the emotional bandwidth to hone it in. Like, and
Mm.
that comes from that self-awareness piece. Like, I know that I am gonna say in all humility and not in pretense, showing up authentically as myself, I am gonna say something that I really regret. And I guarantee you I'm gonna wake up the next morning and not be worked up about it at all because I get so heated in the moment. It's not even gonna matter to me tomorrow. And I know that when I am tired on top of it, I say things like, "You never" I talk in hyperbole, "You never help with this. You never do this." And that really hurts my husband's feelings because it's not true. I just am, like, so
Mm.
heated. So, being able to even say, "Okay, that advice isn't for me." If it's after 8 o'clock, I need to just shut my mouth and say, "Can we continue this conversation tomorrow? I love you." And move on. Because for me, it doesn't
Mm.
work. But I think that self-awareness piece does help us show up in humility. Like, this isn't just about, oh, now I can fix myself to be perfect. Some of it is like, I can have a more authentic conversation with my husband and say things. It gives you the language, like I said. Sometimes I talk in hyperbole and I'm sorry and I'm working on it. And I know that it hurts you when I say, "You never do the dishes," because it's not true. But to just be able to acknowledge, like, this is really hard for me because I get so heated in the moment and I say crazy things. And to be able to then authentically apologize too. Like a true
Mm.
apology that's like, "I was speaking in hyperbole again, and I know it's not true. Will you please forgive me?" I think it helps you have a
Mm.
more humble, authentic apology as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
It
your
really is
kids and your
coming to the
spouse.
know thyself.
Yes.
Know thyself in a way, like, know the way the Lord created you, know your tendencies. But, that was, like, actually just some of the best marriage advice I've ever heard after being married for 33 years. How you said that doesn't, because you hear that all the time, "Don't go to bed angry," and how true, that doesn't apply to every temperament. That is
No.
wow, that's
Yes.
mind-blowing.
I know, I'm like, permission to run that through your temperament and to run any advice you get from someone, through your temperament and,
Yeah.
take pieces that work for you and that don't work for you.
Yeah, and I think too, through a lens that is Christ-centered, Catholic-centered, so that we don't necessarily get hung up in the, "Oh, well, that's just me. I'm
Yes.
just messy. I'm a hothead. That's just how I am."
Yes.
Like, to own it, but, like, in this Christ-centered way, I think there's so much freedom then for
Yes.
us to say, "Okay, you know what? Like, I can't have this conversation before bed." It's
Yes.
just it's in all of our best interest that we wait, because otherwise I will have to really go to confession the next day. So I
Absolutely.
think there's some balance in that. Do you have any, like, advice or wisdom in that? Like, how to channel that and funnel your temperament, without the shame, embracing that this is the way that God created you to be, and that it can be used for good. Like, that's
Yes.
the other thing, temperaments being used for good, but how to work in that way of not using it as, like, any cop outs or anything, but in this
Right.
beautiful, virtuous way.
Yes, so good. I'm so glad you brought this up because why we love the church, right? Because the church is the standard on truth. The church has the fullness of truth. That is our ultimate standard. So once again, yeah, just because I'm sanguine doesn't mean that I get to indulge in my every whim, just because that's an easy temptation for me. And you have to have temperaments in light of the truth of the church, because otherwise it would very easily go that way. I feel if you did not have the
Mhm.
two together, it would be quite easy to just indulge in your weaknesses and all those temptations and just say that's how I'm made. I'm just going to live that way. But when you have this beautiful, holy, virtuous standard that the church has given us on how to live a holy life. But we also know there's so many ways of attaining that. So many different ways. And I'm going to
Mhm.
butcher this quote, but I know that there's a quote that discusses how eerily similar all of the great tyrants of the world are. all of the dictators, the most evil people in history have all been so similar in what they want and what they do, but how gloriously different all the saints. The saints
Mm.
are so different. So many different life circumstances, vocations, ages, personality types, just all of it. And so I think that's the beauty. And that's, what I really like to think of. We've all been given a unique face of Christ to share with the world. So,
Mm.
like I said, for prayer, for me, prayer is the standard that we are in relationship with the Lord. That's a non negotiable. That's not a, "Oh, I don't feel like it today. And because I'm sanguine, that's okay." It's not. It might be harder for me to have a consistent prayer life because of that, but that's still the standard. But how can I make that being me? How can I have a consistent prayer life, but do it as myself? Show up as myself. And what other people will that inspire to do that? Because I'll tell you, if I'm gonna try to do it as a cleric, it's not gonna get done. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna follow through. But if I do it as myself, I can show up and just allow the Lord to love me as I am. So that is my advice there is just the church and the temperaments have to be married together, and we have to look
Mm.
to the church and to the catechism and God's word as the standard. But how can your temperament help you live that out? How can you do it
Mhm.
as yourself?
Yeah, I love that so much, so much. It's so beautiful. I'm just hoping, and I have a feeling that everybody that's listening is thinking, "Oh my goodness, if I don't already know my temperament, I can't wait to find out."
Yeah.
Because it goes back to your one of your favorite saint quotes from Saint Catherine of Siena, "Be who God made you to be, and you will set the world on fire."
Hmm.
And I think there is just so much truth and encouragement, and we should all be so excited at the thoughts and the possibilities of what the Lord wants to do through each of us when we live in what He gave us, our God given temperaments, and the way He wants to use us with our temperaments to serve Him and bring others closer to Him. I love how you said
Amen.
how we each have a different face of Christ to show the world.
Yes.
And we can't do that if we're trying to live as someone else's temperament.
No.
It's not
Exactly.
going to work.
Exactly, and it eliminates the comparison trap. I mean,
For
now
sure.
that I have friends who can keep their house perfectly clean and organized all the time, they can get up at 5:30. I used to have jealousy for them, and now it's like, I'm so happy for them that they are that way. They inspire me
Mm.
to do better. How can I get creative and ask for their help? Like, show me how you
Yeah.
do this. And there's no more, that comparison and envy. It's just an appreciation.
For sure.
Yes.
Do you have any, parting words that you want to share?
I mean, yes, of course, be who God meant you to be. You'll set the world on fire. The glory of God is man fully alive. All these little quippy things. But really,
Oh,
yes,
love.
if you desire to know your temperament and learn more about it, do so in relationship with Christ as you learn about it. And just always remember that God's voice does not condemn us, it doesn't shame us, it doesn't produce anxiety. God's voice always convicts us, encourages us, and
Mm.
gratitude is always from the Lord. So just remember that as you learn more about yourself. Really, my prayer is that every person would be able to just see themselves how God sees them in the beautiful way that He created them. So that is my final, that the temperaments would help them experience the love of Christ ever more deeply and just how beautiful He made them and how much He loves you.
Mm. Thank you, Michelle. Absolutely
Yes.
beautiful. So encouraging. So I will have in the show notes the Metanoia Catholic link. And is there a special way that people can reach you directly through your own ministry and coaching that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is to just email me. So if we can add that as well. But
Sure.
my email
Yeah,
address is just mlzulke@gmail.com, which maybe that would be easy if we just put it in there. But yeah, email me, and that's the easiest way for us to, yeah, to chat if anyone wants to know
perfect.
more.
Yes, I will include that in the show notes. So, friends, I know this has given you some great stuff to ponder and pray on and explore. And it can just, we've talked about it can be life changing to just embrace and learn more about the person God designed you to be. Because remember, be who you were created to be, and you will set the world on fire.
Woohoo!
Thanks for joining us today. Remember to like, subscribe, and share Living Lit, and reach out with topics you'd like tackled at livinglit@sfcatholic.com. And be the light, shine the light, share the light, and live lit.